As you guys know, I've played the video game Shadow the Hedgehog on my channel. Fucking love that game. Honestly, Shadow the Hedgehog was the game that introduced me to the utter disappointment that was the rest of the Sonic franchise. As a kid, seeing a gun-wielding, teleporting, exploding hedgehog was tons of fun. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that Shadow the Hedgehog was in fact a spin-off of another game called Sonic. I was now really sad. Not only that, but Shadow served as a minor character for most of the Sonic franchise. I stumbled across this absolute fucking disgrace to the entire Dragon Ball Z fanbase called Saiyan Scholar, and today I'm going to be debunking a video by Saiyan Scholar. The video by this clown that I'm going to be debunking today is called Shadow the Hedgehog, How Sega Failed This Prodigy. Before anyone rips on me for being a Sonic fantard defending the series, I need to remind you I'm actually a huge Dragon Ball fan. I like Dragon Ball more than I do Sonic, but I also know bullshit when I see it. And if there's one thing I really dislike about fan bases, it's when they bring down and attack aspects of other fan bases that people are just trying to enjoy. Let's get on to responding to this guy's trash video.
Shadow the Hedgehog. Wow, okay, can I just say, if there's one character in the Sonic franchise that had what it took to be just as iconic in terms of design, concept, and overall potential, it was Shadow the Hedgehog.
Really? Silver the Hedgehog, Infinite, Methless, Chaos, Metal Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Hell, Amy, the list goes on. Only an absolute moron with complete ignorance of the Sonic franchise would argue that Shadow is the only character who had potential to be as iconic as Sonic. The number one problem with Shadow is, and the reason he faded into obscurity, is because Sega abandoned his character after people like you didn't like his video game. This was, and still is, despite Shadow's enormous popularity. Sega has simply abandoned the character. Shadow's lack of presence in almost all Sonic media is absolutely blinding. He is a poorly marketed character who's lost the spotlight to Sega's mascot. The reason why characters like Vegeta and Luigi are popular is because they're featured heavily in their respected franchises. Shadow, however, is a minor character, and so his popularity and level of how iconic he is dwindled as a result. It's not really your fault for hating his video game, it's Sega's fault for having bad habit of simply abandoning their characters. Some really do try to argue that Sonic should have a smaller cast of characters. However, I disagree. Mario's able to pull this off, and if he can, why can't Sonic? Anyway, I think I've made my point. Let's move on.
But Shadow was originally different. We knew there was something different about him. It drew us towards him, something which separated him from the original Sonic, but also gave him the characteristics and traits that put him above Sonic in certain places.
Oh, give me a fucking break. Anybody who's ever played Sonic Adventure 2 surely knows that Shadow had no characteristics that put him above Sonic. Shadow was a psychopathic, crazy motherfucking hedgehog whose original ambition was to destroy the planet until he suddenly decided not to because of a suppressed memory, which gave him a change of heart. If Shadow never had that memory come back, he would have destroyed the entire planet. He hardly had any traits that could put him above Sonic anywhere. Shadow was a monster during his initial debut.
But Shadow is the type of character who had potential to lead the Sonic franchise if he was given the right backing and the right story.
If Luigi didn't have the potential to lead the Mario franchise, then there wasn't a snowball's chance in hell that Shadow the Hedgehog had a chance to lead the Sonic franchise. Did he have the potential to be a good major character? Yes, but he was abandoned and made into a minor one because of a bad video game. Or should I say a video game that was universally hated.
We have to ask ourselves the most important question. What the hell happened?
Shadow had a video game that Sonic fans didn't like, so Sega abandoned his character. Okay, that's it. Video over? Oh no? Oh, it's still here? Oh, okay then.
How did Shadow the Hedgehog become a disgrace
To the Sonic franchise?
Shadow was hardly a disgrace to the Sonic franchise. Many fans like myself have been begging for him to make a comeback and a major role in a video game for years now, a request Sega has long since ignored. In fact, some polls show that Shadow is actually even more popular than Sonic is. So yeah, he isn't really a disgrace, just severely underutilized.
He's sharp, he has purpose, he matches Sonic in speed and skill.
No, he doesn't. Time and time again, the entire Sonic franchise has consistently shown that Shadow is stronger than Sonic. This has been represented in various video games, TV shows, comics. Hell, even the video game you're talking about has Sonic getting his ass beaten by Shadow on multiple occasions.
I actually prefer the concept of Shadow than Sonic.
Well yeah, and it's not surprising that you do. A lot of fans prefer Shadow over Sonic. His design appeals to a more older audience, which happens to be most of the Sonic fanbase now, who have long since grown up since the 90s. Shadow is also considered cooler by young kids because he's darker than Sonic is. He isn't some family-friendly hedgehog who shouts out generic one-liners that make him sound like a school kid in a cafeteria trying to stop a team of bullies. And that's something that a lot of kids and adults can enjoy, and is the reason why Shadow needs to be brought back from the dead by Sega along with many other Sonic characters.
But of course, as time went on, the suffocation of oversaturated characters in the franchise and bad decisions in game making would make even the likes of Shadow fall from the spotlight.
You're joking, right? Sonic Unleashed had almost no characters besides Sonic in it. Did anyone play that game as a child for longer than 30 seconds when they realised that fact? I certainly didn't. And hell, Sonic Unleashed still wasn't good despite that criticism having been fixed. Sonic being a singular character in his franchise is exactly the opposite of what fans want. Sonic is a cool character, but we've had him for 3 fucking decades now. He's even had his own movie. The entire franchise practically revolves around him. If anything, the Sonic franchise is suffering from a severe lack of characters rather than a severe oversaturation. Anyway, at this point, Saiyan Scholar goes after Shadow's video game. And yes, he brings up the same overused criticisms of the game. And even worse, he goes on to demonstrate that he hasn't played it.
But this game in 2005 destroyed that aura. The fact that Shadow has a gun and a bike must tell you we're dealing with a game that makes as much sense as pulling out your tooth because you didn't like the gap between it and the other one.
Funny joke, but seriously, the gun criticism again? Eggman used guns and rockets in Sonic Adventure 2 for fuck's sake. He even threatened Amy at gunpoint. And yet you suck that game's dick to no return. And Shadow riding a bike? You do know there's a game called Sonic Team Racing, right?
Poor controls, poor level design that doesn't allow Shadow to use speed properly, the gunplay is pointless, poor missions, poor stages, and the story, completely ruined Shadow's character.
Now you would expect him to actually justify these criticisms in his video, but he doesn't. I'll respond to them anyway. Right analog stick moves Shadow forwards and backwards. Pressing the A button makes Shadow jump. Pressing it twice while in mid-air activates the homing attack. X makes Shadow punch and kick. Right trigger makes Shadow shoot. This is one of the most universal control schemes in gaming history. Double jump, punch, kick, and move. It's pretty straightforward. If you can't master it, then I suggest getting some practice in on Monster Inc. Scare Island's tutorial level. That serves as a really good introduction to video games for the borderline disabled. And as for a bad level design, what about this is bad? You move in a straight line and get to the end of the level. It's not that fucking complicated or difficult to master. Maybe if you weren't a game journalist, you'd understand this. And in not letting Shadow do speed properly, the game has loop-de-loops for fuck's sake. I'm pretty sure Shadow can do speed just fine. What a fucking relief though. A Sonic game that doesn't actually just focus on speed for once. Instead making it require you to actually play the fucking game instead of smashing through enemies suspiciously arranged like bowling pins. What a tragedy. And the gunplay being pointless? I'm pretty sure you need to use it to progress in some areas, but what do I know? I've only played the game before, and much less not like a retarded hamster with its legs amputated. It's pretty obvious this is one of those people that just hands out blanket criticism to something without specifics. And why get into specifics? That sounds like work. We've got a video game to criticize here. I mean, we could go after the confusing storyline, the slippery gameplay, or the fucking retarded homing attack, but no. I'm going to criticize the game for its creators not being able to take into account for the fact that dumb as shit quadriplegic drooling blockheads like myself might take a shit on the cover before putting it in the console and won't be able to master its incredibly basic control scheme.
Okay, so some may like it, but that's up to you, but you can't deny this is the game that single-handedly ruined Shadow's character and reputation beyond repair.
I can agree that this was the game that upset a shitload of Sonic purists, which resulted in Sega abandoning Shadow the Hedgehog's character. Plus, I mean, if you actually played the game to the very end and got to witness the final story, you'd probably disagree with that statement. Look, even if Shadow had a bad video game, that doesn't excuse Sega for simply removing him from the franchise, and the moment you actually ignore the retarded criticisms of screaming Sonic purists like yourself, you might actually notice that as a video game, there's nothing wrong with Shadow, besides maybe a dodgy homing attack and a confusing storyline. It's more stable than Sonic Heroes, more stable than Sonic Adventures 1 and 2, and heaps more fucking stable than Sonic 06. In addition to this, in Shadow, you only have to play as Shadow, and no other Sonic character in order to progress, because that's fucking infuriating. If anything, in terms of gameplay, Shadow was actually a massive high point in the franchise. Modern Sonic's overemphasis on speed and boost gameplay make for really shitty games, that don't let you breathe, and run at a normal pace. We get it, Sonic's fast, but I'm playing a fucking video game, and we've had this for over a decade. I would like Sonic to be a little fucking slower, please. We've had enough of the boost titles, let's remove that and go back to the Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog gameplay, because that was when the series was at its best. The franchise needs to stop focusing so much on speed and needs to start focusing more on fucking gameplay. And this is pretty fucking obvious, but it's pretty obvious that people like Saiyan Scholar don't get this. Shadow executed this concept well. This cannot be denied. I'm not denying that Shadow the Hedgehog has flaws as a video game. All games have flaws. As I've done, I've already acknowledged the homing attack is kind of broken and the storyline is kind of fucking confusing. And the game itself certainly wasn't groundbreaking in any way, shape and form. Other than the fact you don't have to play as Sonic for fucking once. Oh, heavens above.
And ever since then, it got worse.
Did it? The last time Shadow was playable for longer than 20 minutes was in Sonic 06. He had to come to terms with his past and the fact that humankind still hates him. After that... Okay, so he had some minor roles in Boom, Generations and Forces. The point is, even in those games, he was hardly featured. 2 of them he was a boss fight, and another one he was a fucking DLC character that was only playable for 20 minutes. Yes, I'm not joking. Shadow had a DLC where he was playable for 20 fucking minutes. No way, this franchise is so fucking oversaturated with characters that aren't Sonic, oh my god. How can a character who hasn't even been playable in a major Sonic game for over a decade fuck up his reputation any more than he already has? And think about it like this. Imagine if Vegeta was playable in a Dragon Ball game for only 20 minutes as a DLC character. Then you have 90% of the Dragon Ball fanbase screaming, there's too many fucking fucking characters in Dragon Ball Z. It needs to be about Goku, only Goku, no Vegeta. Vegeta bad character, bad game. Yeah, you'd imagine that Dragon Ball fans would be incredibly pissed off. Well, that's what all Shadow fans have to go through every single time a new Sonic game is released. Then you have the Sonic purist wankers like Saiyan Scholar that just continue to ruin it for everyone, further discouraging Sega to even entertain the thought of Shadow having a more major role, with these incredibly low quality, poorly thought out video essays that are just plastered across YouTube's front pages, forming a massive echo chamber where everyone's opinion is the same, and there's no opposing opinion. Shadow bad, bad game, edgy character, bad. Then the people who actually enjoy Shadow and actually grew up with him realize, great, well now we can't have any more Shadow in the Sonic franchise because of these people that are such fuckwits that they need to ruin everyone else's experiences with these incredibly poorly thought out and low quality YouTube videos, copying and pasting what everyone else has said for the purposes of clout chasing. None of you have ever had an original thought in your head. You just repeat the same criticisms you've heard others say. The mere ability to repeat the same criticisms that you've heard other people say over and over again does not make them valid. The problem is that you never take a moment to critically analyze it. Is this a valid criticism, or is there something that I'm missing? Your first priority is getting the video out and making bank. Meanwhile, the Sonic franchise continues to suffer. Oh look, another Sonic game that's all about Sonic and has absolutely no other characters besides Sonic and is all about running really fast and is identical to every other fucking Sonic game that has come before it. Just what nobody's been asking for. How riveting. Then the moment that somebody comes along and suggests maybe reintroducing characters like Silver and Shadow, oh no. That would be insane. Don't be stupid. Sonic is cool. Sonic is awesome. His franchise isn't dying on top of the corpses of abandoned and sidelined characters and in dire need of an overhaul. This is fine. This situation is fine. Why would Sonic want to live up to a large-scale diverse cast of characters like games such as Mario and Crash Bandicoot, when we can rinse and repeat the same formula that's gotten so stale it's starting to get moldy? Yeah dudes, whatever. If having a continuous cycle of Sonic games that are only about Sonic helps you sleep at night, then I guess our Shadow fans will have to go fuck ourselves. I'm not saying that Shadow can't be criticised. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but I do have to emphasise this point. There are fair things that he should be criticised for, but when you start throwing out blatant incorrect or bad criticisms with no one to oppose you, and you're given the power to potentially sway Sega one way or another with massive YouTube audiences, that's when we need to start having a serious discussion. Anyway, I think I've gotten a bit sidetracked. Let's get back on to Saiyan Scholar's video.
Ever since then, he became Knuckles the Echidna.
Well, again, you couldn't be more wrong. Knuckles is actually featured in Sonic games. Shadow isn't.
Shadow's personality took a step back then. He was just acting the asshole because he's the cool, dark, edgy Sonic, oh yeah.
And here we see yet more evidence that this is just a poorly thought out video essay that suggests Saiyan Scholar is just parroting the same criticisms he's heard over and over again, and not actually thinking for himself. Acting edgy? I can't think of too many points in Shadow's earlier stories where that criticism could even be applied. In Shadow's game, some stories end with Shadow thinking that he's a weapon of mass destruction and feeling like shit. Others end with him saving the world, others end with him forming his own android army, others end with him trying to prove to Sonic that he's the strongest hedgehog, and in others he destroys the world. There's so much variety here, it's impossible for Saiyan Scholar to actually definitively point to one thing and say, that's it, that's him being edgy. Sure, in some endings he was a bit edgy. Canonically, there's certainly nothing Saiyan Scholar can point to that suggests Shadow was trying to be edgy. In Shadow's canon ending, he puts his past behind him. In Sonic 06, he realizes that the human race hates him, but he accepts it for what it is. In Sonic Adventure 2, he sacrifices himself for the greater good. Tell me, in that list of things I just handed out, at what point did you think to yourself, oh wow, edgy as fuck, man? That's right, you didn't. Unlike Saiyan Scholar, I'm familiar with the character of Shadow, and I'm not just handing out blatant criticisms I've heard everyone else say. I've done my research.
The fact that later games turned him into a cliche Sonic rival who's the edgy Vegeta copycat was totally cringe.
What's cringe is you suggesting that's what Sega has been doing with Shadow since its debut. Dragon Ball Z is a great franchise. I truly love it, and I have done since I was a young weed enthusiast. The mere fact that something is good doesn't mean everything else is trying to copy it. Sure, there are some endings in Shadow game that one could argue Sega was going the more Vegeta direction. However, for every one that involved a Vegeta-like story, there are about 10 others that didn't. Saiyan Scholar might know this if he wasn't parroting the same criticisms he's heard over and over again, and could actually think for himself. Shadow bad? Other Shadow stories that came following his video game had very little, if anything, in common with Vegeta, especially in the universally hated Sonic 06. There's nothing in that game that you can definitively point to about Shadow that makes him like Vegeta in any way. After that, we had almost no Shadow content for years. All he did was make the main villain by hurting him in a 20-minute DLC. So exactly where Saiyan Scholar is getting this Vegeta copycat criticism from is anybody's guess. Look, I'll be the first to admit that Shadow does in fact share some similarities with Vegeta, but the argument that Saiyan Scholar is using here that Sega specifically turned him into a Vegeta copycat beyond SA2 is just not valid in the slightest. One need only play the video games that feature Shadow to find out for yourself.
He already put his past behind him in Sonic Adventure 2, but after that game, they reversed that decision.
Now that should be a baffling statement to any Sonic fan who's played or is at least familiar with Sonic Sonic Adventure 2. There's no mention of Shadow putting his past behind him in that game. In Sonic Adventure 2, he has a change of heart and sacrifices himself for the greater good. It isn't until Shadow the Hedgehog that Shadow ultimately puts his past behind him. Canonically, after Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic 06, not only is Shadow's past never even brought up, it's made clear that Shadow has grown as a person and has accepted who he is. He has completely put the past behind him, and it shows in his actions and words.
The Shadow the Hedgehog game had no emotion, where in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow opened up. He even cried.
As if Shadow's transformation into Super Shadow, while a mix of both Live and Learn and I'm All of Me play at the same time, harkening back to Sonic Adventure 2, wasn't emotional enough. No, if only a single tear was shown, Saiyan Scholar might actually like this game. Look, don't get me wrong, Shadow's crying in SA2 is iconic and is emotional, but not for the reasons that Saiyan Scholar seems to think. The mere inclusion of a character crying doesn't an emotional story make. Shadow crying is tear-jerking and emotional to the viewer because of his tragic backstory, and the reason as to why he is crying. We as the viewer understand that Shadow is crying because Maria is dead, and he's made a huge realization about what she really wanted for him years after she died. This is an emotional moment, not just for Shadow but for the viewer as well. Another example of what makes a scene emotional is Mufasa's death in The Lion King. This scene is sad, not because Simba is crying, but because Mufasa is fucking dead, and we were attached to his character. If all you saw was Simba crying with no backstory, you wouldn't give a shit. Another example closer to home for Saiyan Scholar is the scene in Dragon Ball Z, in which Vegeta is crying while on his deathbed at the hands of Frieza. The tragic backstory of Vegeta is an emotional gut punch to the viewer. It's the moment the viewer has a realization that the villain that they've been hating this entire time is actually a human being with emotions and a life of his own, and was manipulated by outside forces that were beyond his control, making him the evil person that he was. This is outlined clearly in the manner that the viewer can understand and so feel the emotion. So no, the mere fact that Shadow cries in Sonic Adventure 2 is not the reason this scene is emotional. As for Shadow's game having no emotion, the alternate ending in which Shadow thinks he's a scientific experiment gone wrong is pretty emotional. The endings in which Shadow proves he is the ultimate hedgehog are pretty badass and make the gamer feel emotionally hyped. I must say, I found every ending of the game very interesting. As soon as the credits rolled on each ending, I found myself wondering what took place after the screen went black. There's my reasons as to why I disagree with Saiyan Scholar on this point. Let's continue.
Now, here we go, Sonic 06. Big controversial statement coming up. The game sucked, yes, but the story of Shadow's character was actually good, in the fact they acknowledged his past.
Hold on a second. Weren't you a minute ago criticizing the Sonic franchise for reversing the decision of Shadow putting his past behind him? And yet here you are now saying it's a good thing?
He already put his past behind him in Sonic Adventure 2, but after that game, they reversed that decision. But the story of Shadow's character was actually good, in the fact they acknowledged his past.
Come the fuck on, Saiyan Scholar, have some consistency here. Shadow acknowledging his past is either a good thing in your view, or it's not. You can't have it both ways.
But in all other games around this time and after it, Shadow's personality just started becoming an asshole.
Putting aside the fact that Shadow was almost entirely never featured in any other Sonic game past 06, Shadow was never exactly known for being a nice Sonic character. Him being an asshole has kind of been one of his signature traits. I will agree with Saiyan Scholar, however, that Shadow was kind of an asshole in the Sonic Boom TV show. I say asshole, Shadow was more of a villain in that TV show. He tried to destroy the universe, which I agree misconstrued his character completely. Shadow was not a villain, and was never intended to be, with the exception of a few alternate storylines and the endings of his game. My headcanon is that Shadow was always intended by Professor Gerbil Robotnik to save the world all along. He was originally supposed to be a hero just like Sonic, but who turned out the exact opposite because of tragic circumstances that were beyond his control. Now he is a hero. However, he's been permanently damaged by the events of his past, making him a bit more sadistic and rude and more of an arsehole than Sonic is. An analogy I could use here is that Shadow is like Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. He is the hero, but he's also a fucking arsehole, and has done various monstrous things in order to protect his group. Sonic the Hedgehog is like Glenn from The Walking Dead. He wants to be nice and spare everyone, and is also a hero. So yeah, of course Shadow is kind of an arsehole, Saiyan Scholar. That's a given. In the 20-minute DLC we got for Sonic Forces, Shadow kicks Infinite's ass, which is sort of something I think would be more realistic, given the fact that Shadow is not known for being nice. Shadow being nice to his enemies isn't something that I can see in his character, given his dark backstory. He did, however, give Infinite a chance to escape before politely telling him never to show his face again, and I think that was pretty cool of Shadow, even if it did give us the next Sonic villain. That's pretty in line with his character if he's a hero with a tragic backstory, as I personally believe. Now look, once again, I'm not saying that the previous installments of the Sonic franchise have done the best job of portraying Shadow's character. Quite the contrary. What I am saying though is that Saiyan Scholar's point of view on this particular subject is misguided.
And I'll keep saying this. Vegeta. Shadow the Hedgehog is a goddamn hedgehog prince. One of the biggest problems comes from the writing of Sonic Team. They completely ruin characters, and it's almost like each character becomes a parody of itself.
Well, Saiyan Scholar, one could easily argue you yourself are a parody of yourself at this point. You're acting like a 4-year-old toddler. You're screaming and crying and carrying on, thinking that everything that's not Dragon Ball is copying your beloved Dragon Ball for some of the dumbest fucking reasons I've ever seen on the face of this goddamn planet. It's clear your argument stands on thin ice, because in your entire video you never point to a single example in which the Sonic writers blatantly copy Vegeta. In fact, you seem to have this fictitious idea in your head that every Sonic game post Shadow the Hedgehog and SA2 featured Shadow, and each one besides 06 had Shadow as a Vegeta copycat. For anyone out there who's played the Sonic games, or is at least vaguely familiar with the franchise as a whole, you're aware that this information is actually not true in the slightest. Saiyan Scholar also never gives a single example to prove that what he's saying is actually true, suggesting he's either unaware that it's completely false, or is a true scumbag and is blatantly lying to his viewers' face about the Sonic franchise for the purposes of gaining clicks. What's sad is that 30,000 people watched this video, and seemingly only one out of all those viewers, myself, was able to see through your bullshit and give you a proper correctional video. It's baffling to me that your lies somehow managed to slip through the cracks of nearly 30,000 people, and quite frankly, it makes me slightly terrified. Okay guys, at this point, this video has gone on for quite some time. There's plenty more in Saiyan Scholar's video that I could easily cover, and hell, even more retarded videos from the man himself, but I very much doubt that if I continue to watch his videos, my brain could actually function at full capacity. In fact, I can't foresee continued exposure to Saiyan Scholar's videos as resulting in any more than a massive brain hemorrhage. And I apologize for my voice at this point in the video, guys. I went to a metal concert yesterday and there was a lot of shouting. And if you guys haven't been able to tell, I'm actually getting back into YouTube now. I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to tell through the video productions. Get excited because I'm pretty motivated to continue to make videos for you guys. And believe it or not, I never went anywhere. And I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. I'm never quitting YouTube. So on that note, I'm gonna leave the video here. So that's it. I'm done for today. And if you guys like this video, click the playlist that is on screen now. And yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.